So this story is pretty cool. Nelson Mandela's grandson, Chief Mandela, has backed Jeremy Corbyn. Now, before I get to the details, let me just say this shows you that, those images of Jeremy Corbyn and his or him being part of the anti-apartheid campaign in the 80s, that it wasn't all, for show, but this was a man that has a history. Corbyn has a history of pushing these issues and being on the right side of these issues, which Theresa May does not have. So let me give you these quotes. It was a hilarious but also a saddening moment for us as South Africans to have Theresa May come to South Africa and go to Robben Island and then want to claim that Britain did a lot for our struggle for liberation, he says later. The British government did nothing for the liberation of South Africa, yet the British citizens did a lot, particularly for the anti-apartheid campaign, and people like Jeremy Corbyn were right in the forefront of that. We applaud them, and we continue to pledge our support for them. So there's more quotes in a minute, but let me just show you. So I covered a bit of Theresa May when she went to Robben Island because she was pounded by a journalist there that just did such a fantastic job. So I'm going to show you a short clip of that just to refresh your memory before I get to the next quotes from Chief Mandela.
What did you do to help release Nelson Mandela?
Well, I think what is important is what the United Kingdom did. And
what did you do? What did you do? Did you go on protests? Did you get arrested outside the embassy? Did you boycott South African goods? Did you do anything?
I think you know full well that I didn't go on protests, Michael. But what is important is the work that the United Kingdom...
Well, did you boycott South African goods?
The work that the United Kingdom government did to ensure that it was able to give support where that support was
needed. Hang on a minute. At that stage, Mrs. Thatcher believed that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. Were you a loyal Conservative Party member? Did you think the same thing?
What was important was the support that the UK government was giving at the time, often support behind the scenes, but in other ways too.
But not Theresa May.
To ensure that we saw the result that we did in relation to the ending of apartheid here in South Africa.
A government led by a woman who thought that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. Now you're going to be going to Robben Island. Aren't you going to be feeling guilty that at the time Nelson Mandela was on Robben Island, you, Theresa May, did nothing to help his release, you personally?
What I will be feeling, I think, when I go to Robben Island.
So that UK journalist just completely eviscerated Theresa May. So I have a whole video on that. I'll link to it above. You can go watch that video if you want to see more about that. But yeah, so let me get to the next quotes here from Chief Mandela about Jeremy Corbyn. This freedom we have today, we owe to the likes of Jeremy Corbyn, Chief Mandela says. My grandfather and South Africans in totality would still look to him to be the conscience, the real voice of morals in the British society. His heart was on the right side of history during the struggle for our liberation. What else is there to say? Jeremy Corbyn has proven himself as somebody that has been on the correct side of history, as he was with anti-apartheid with South Africa. And he continues today to be on the right side of history, not only on foreign policy issues, but on domestic issues, on issues for the UK, on pushing for better health care for his citizens. So again, I've said this almost every Jeremy Corbyn video I say this, but it's worth mentioning. Jeremy Corbyn is a real leader. He knows what the right thing to do is, and despite all the outside pressures, whether it's the media or the elites, Jeremy Corbyn pushes forward because he knows what the right thing to do is. So if you have somebody like Corbyn who has a documented history on these issues, you have to know, even if you disagree with him now, you think about issues that, hey, I don't think Jeremy Corbyn's right about this. Take a second look, because maybe he is. Somebody with his track record is worth trusting.